Star Wars has a future, according to Dave Filoni. It's just a really, really small future. Limited in scope and scale, and folks, we're flabbergasted. Something that seldom happens here on the channel. But we have no idea why the business people behind Star Wars and behind Disney want to shrink this franchise. We're here to share information with you today, some of it directly out of the mouth of one cowboy of Lucasfilm creative, Dave Filoni himself, where we just have to scratch our heads and say, why? Why don't they want Star Wars to be big again? We're going to show you what they're saying. We're going to let you be the judge right now. Hello and happy day, folks. Welcome back to the WDW Pro channel, where we continue to pull back the curtain on Hollywood and reveal what they would rather you not know. Folks, we're here to tell you, though, if they were making good stuff and good content, they'd love us. The fact that they don't just suggests that, well, they're not too happy about what is on the way. But one thing that's on the way with this video is X-Wing, a fan favorite. We're always happy to have you, X-Wing. Welcome back to the channel.
Thanks, man. I feel like it's been way too long. You've been too right, and so there hasn't been enough speculation. That's the problem.
We know X-Wing, the audit with Culture Casino and Lauren Connor found us at 90% accuracy for the first quarter of 2023. We're continuing to work through that audit, but we're going to try to finish well. And this may be one of the last scoops of the year, but the scoop that we have comes from someone who, it's a source who we will be losing as a source very soon. And you and I talked behind the scenes about why that is. We can't tell the audience why that is, but we want to say a thank you to the source who has provided us with this information today. And we're honored that you have been able to provide us stuff over the past many months and years. And so we will we'll miss having that info from you. But X-Wing, the information that we have, folks, rumor speculation territory at this time. But the rumor that I have is that the Rey movie is the budget is probably going to be reduced significantly. I don't know if all of Disney movies are having their budgets reduced, but the expectation I am hearing from Lucasfilm is that the Rey movie will not have the kind of budget that they have been accustomed to, which with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, hard to imagine that they would get that kind of budget again.
Yeah.
X-Wing, the reason I'm hearing is that apparently Disney is not so confident. Again, though, folks, we don't know this for certain. We can't corroborate it, but Disney not so certain that there is the desire for Rey after they have watched Wish and Wish and the Marvels fail in such spectacular ways. So, X-Wing, what do you think about this idea that Rey may not be the winning hand that they thought it was?
I think they learned that earlier than we're giving them credit for, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I think they learned that a long, long time ago. I think, as in any corporate environment, moving a pebble is sometimes like moving a mountain. And
then why are they bringing her back, X-Wing? What was the point of even bringing her back in the first place? I have my thoughts, but what's your reason you've got?
To be perfectly honest with you, I think what really happened with Daisy Ridley when it came to the entire Star Wars Celebration thing was one big PR stunt. I think it was a big PR stunt to reinvigorate the sequel fans and or judge as to what the kind of reaction would be to Rey coming back. And obviously you've got the plants in the Star Wars Celebration crowd that are like, way, losing their mind that Rey is coming back. But lest we forget everything that happened with the Star Cruiser, I think if this was a fan favorite, if this is a character that people were crazy about, the toys would be selling, the lightsabers would be selling, people would be, lining up at the parks to take their picture with Rey. All of the indicators that you've made a successful character and a successful continuation of your franchise. That's not happening. That's not what happened with Hot Toys. We're not seeing Steve Rogers on people's shelves like we saw with, Marvel and the Avengers. We're not seeing any of the characters from that sequel trilogy explode the way I think they thought they would. And so now you've got basically these guys in limbo going, we've spent all this money. We've built these parks around these characters. What are we going to do? Well, Star Wars Celebration, let's bring Rey back. Let's announce a movie and let's gauge exactly what the fan response is going to be, which was abysmal. It was completely abysmal. And so now they go,
for Star Wars Celebration was so bad.
It was the worst Star Wars Celebration I've ever seen, by the way.
Well, the viewership was so bad that, middle range live streamers out there on YouTube were beating Star Wars Celebration in terms of its online attendance. So
Correct.
not good at all. But X-Wing, the strange thing is, though, I'm with you on the PR. I'm with you. And in particular, I think that Bob Iger coming back at the same time that they made that announcement, you can kind of see how all the connections that exist, how that happened. At the same time, we've got a director in place. We've got, according to what I know, we probably have a production location set in the United Kingdom for this summer. So I think that the pieces are there to make the Rey movie happen. Whether they're happy with doing so, I don't know. But all of that said, we're getting a Rey movie, I believe. And, I don't see how it could go well. In fact, what I would say, and we'll see how this pans out, but I would say that this will be revenge of the fan, because just like with the Marvels, where you bait and switch us with Brie Larson's Captain Marvel and make us believe that we have to see that movie to see and understand Endgame, and then that's not true.
Yeah.
Rey is the ultimate bait and switch, right? Because the idea was we wanted to see the original characters and how their story ended. And we were stuck with Rey for 3 movies. And Rey is kind of like vanilla paste. Only she's kind of vanilla paste that is being presented to you as better than the filet mignon that you had, but you're supposed to like the vanilla paste even more so. And that's not right. And so if they put out that same vanilla paste, and that's the only thing that's drawing you in. So think about this. The Force Awakens.
No bait. There's no bait.
No bait. The Force Awakens, we all went because we wanted to see Star Wars again, right? And Rey's there. We're open to that. We go see the Last Jedi because we want to see Luke. And well, that definitely didn't happen. That wasn't Luke. That was Jake. And then we go see the Rise of Palpatine because, well, you've invested decades of your life into this. Maybe they can do something to save this horrible, horrible story. And then it's even worse than you can imagine. Now you throw her out there without anything attached to it. Oh my gosh. I mean, the box office could be, I can't even imagine how bad this could be. What do you think? Is there any way to redeem this?
Here's the question. Who's going to watch that movie?
Apparently the Reylos who have aged out of caring anymore. Oh wait, no, that's not going to happen.
So, at this point, you've alienated your original fan base. The adults who were taking their children to go see The Force Awakens, to see The Last Jedi, to see The Rise of Skywalker, they were there hoping for tidbits that brought them back to their childhood. They've since alienated them. Those children, perhaps, maybe they've grown to the point where they're looking forward to new Star Wars movies. But the thing that George Lucas did is he timed his movies perfectly so that at a very young age, parents took them to see the original trilogy. Depending on when they were born, they go back and they see the prequel trilogy. And then after that come out all of the TV shows that were all, I won't say widely accepted, but at least in my generation, the original trilogy was widely accepted. The prequel trilogy was widely accepted. And then moving into the kids' TV shows, it was all widely accepted. And so now we've got this abundant universe that makes sense for everybody. There's an accepted canon. Everything is good to go. These adults are now taking their kids. That canon's broken. The universe is gone. There are these weird small grasps, these attempts to actually now go all the way back to the original trilogy, or maybe pull a small portion from the prequel trilogy back into these TV shows, and none of the adults are buying it. None of the adults are buying into it. You get that small Twitter crowd that says, this is awesome, this is amazing. You can't sustain a franchise like Star Wars off of a vocal minority. You simply cannot. And we're seeing that. We're seeing it play out. I don't believe for a minute that Bob Iger sat down at a table and said, Marvel's the problem right now. Is it a big portion? Yeah, absolutely. I'd say at least half of the problem. But Star Wars, they sunk so much money into it after the sequel trilogy and then the sequel trilogy itself. I can't help but to imagine they've lost a multitude of millions more on Star Wars than they have on Marvel. And now they're really trying to grasp at straws to bring it back. They think that Dave Filoni is going to be the guy to save it. And I'm telling every single one of you right now, he's going to be the one to put the final nail in the coffin.
Well, he's doing a good job of that, X-Wing. And it's great that you bring that up, because that's actually what I'd like to go into right now, is that there's a common thread here as we watch the budget apparently slashed for the Rey film. We're also watching expectations for even where the story will go with Star Wars, I think, just devolve into mundanity. Just, you know, if we do a video today, if we have a conversation about Star Wars and its future and can it be redeemed and yada, 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 most people are not going to pay attention because most people have already made the decision. So I would like for people to look at what we're talking about right now as a business conversation.
That's all it is anymore, Pro.
From a business standpoint, this boggles the mind.
That's all it is anymore is a business conversation because the magic has gone. I'm a Star Wars YouTuber, Pro. Like, I'm a Star Wars. I founded my channel on Star Wars. I can't talk about it anymore because the magic is gone. That's what we founded everything on, was a love for Star Wars, and that love it's been eradicated.
Yes, and so let's look at this then from a business standpoint, because this is what, I know Kathleen Kennedy has proven herself to be utterly incompetent in this role. And I know that Ahsoka was so bad that it should have ended Dave Filoni as being the writer on anything, let alone the creative lead over an entire studio. And in any other company, that probably would have been the case. Still, this is incredible just how, what would you say, how narrowly focused this is in terms of possible demographics. So let's walk through this. This is an article out of Gizmodo. It's by Jermaine Lucier, and it says Dave Filoni sees Hera Syndulla as Thrawn's ultimate foe, which already, I just don't even know what to say to that. Except that Thrawn is already Admiral Yon, in my opinion. But here's what it says. A second season of Ahsoka hasn't been officially announced yet. I think that we've reported that it is, though. Not officially, but I think we've reported on the channel. I can't remember if we've said that or not, but it's my understanding that it's on the way. But showrunner Dave Filoni has begun to share some of its possibilities, which I would suggest means that, that's it. We're going to skip the first or this paragraph here, and let's just go into what Filoni was telling Empire. Thrawn's foil throughout Rebels was Hera. Pitting the two generals against one another is something that I find interesting. Filoni also mentioned another character he'd like to see with Thrawn. We set up Captain Pelion in The Mandalorian, and that's a character that goes with Thrawn, so I'd love to see the two of them together, he said. Here's some good news for you Star Wars fans out there, all three of you remaining. Filoni said that he finds the Hera and Thrawn dynamic interesting and that he's hoping to see Pelion and Thrawn together is as good as an emission. He is, after all, not just the showrunner, writer, producer, and sometimes director of the show. He's now the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm. If he thinks something is interesting or he'd like to see it happen, he's literally the person who can do that. Now, here's I don't even think most people know who these people are, X-Wing. Like, I don't know how you could possibly drive a story forward with more with more of a lackluster hook than this. X-Wing, does this inspire you? Do you get excited? I mean, where are the stories about we're going to find out something about Baby Yoda that will just rock the galaxy to its core? Where is that? Where is we're going to find that there's a hidden artifact in the center of Mandalore that makes everything suddenly make sense in a way that Star Wars fans have never understood. Now we're getting this deep kind of coffee room chat about, putting Hera together with Thrawn is a really interesting dynamic. And so it's like two very niche generals just going at it with, Thrawn, the way I write him is as utterly stupid. So versus Hera, it's going to be just fascinating. What is this, X-Wing?
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is.
What is it?
This is Filoni stroking his own, you know what? That is all this is, and I'll tell you why.
I can think of a processed meat that rhymes with Filoni. Continue on, please.
There's a reason why A, this is uninteresting, B, it doesn't work, C, it's being put forward. So A, the reason it doesn't work is that the reason why Thrawn was so incredibly interesting is because he was cunning enough, he planned far enough ahead, he always had a step ahead of the most famous character in all of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker.
And you have to be really smart to write smart characters.
Yeah. This guy had a leg up on, especially post Return of the Jedi. You're talking about, but Prime Luke, some of the most incredible stories ever told in Star Wars. How do you make a guy with no force powers basically take on our hero? How do you make literally the Arthurian legend go up against a guy with no force powers. That's how you had Grand Admiral Thrawn. And now you want to take Grand Admiral Thrawn and you want to take him down to your main protagonist is Hera Syndulla? What? The girl who runs around and flashes her badge at people and says, "I'm a general." And that's the breadth and depth of your character? No, look, I understand a lot of people have seen Rebels and they love Rebels. They liked Hera in Rebels. I thought Hera in Rebels was fine. She was great. You know, she kind of plays a counterpart and has the kid and yada yada yada. But
is she lead protagonist material though?
No,
X-Wing?
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
This is supposed to go to a movie. We're supposed to get a Thrawn movie, and she's going to be the main protagonist.
It makes no sense, bro. And the only reason why this is happening is because this is more literal. I won't call it self-insertion because Dave Filoni's not doing what he usually does, where he makes a literal action figure of himself.
How about spousal insertion?
It's so I'm familiar with that, believe it or not. But so, you know, the big thing here is you have Dave Filoni basically saying, I am George's protege. The stuff that I write is good enough to go up against George, not only George, but against some of the other writers that were successful enough that we loved them as much as we loved George when these stories came out. And the bottom line is that's false. He's not good enough. He's not. Well,
I mean, George never said, you know what, this Mon Mothma character, let's make her be the lead protagonist in a couple of TV shows and a movie. Mon Mothma is a cool character.
If you want to tell a side story,
you go with for a lead protagonist.
If you want to tell a side story, tell a side story. Do something animated. Do something like Rebels. That's fine. But Thrawn himself and his story, that was part of, you know, people will argue with me. I'm sure there are going to be people in the comments that say, that wasn't sanctioned by George. He didn't sanction any of that stuff. The bottom line is that was the continuation. And that's what everybody lived with for literally the entirety of the dark times of Star Wars. And so for somebody to come in and downgrade one of the most beloved characters outside of George's writing, I take that back. The most beloved character outside of George's writing, and downgrade him to fight with a side character's spouse from a cartoon that he made when I was a kid.
Yep.
It's the only time I felt emotional about Star Wars since the prequels.
Well, let's play it this way, X-Wing. Let's play it this way. For folks out there who might say to us as a counter, well, you guys, you're just being, snobbish about this, or you just hate on Dave Filoni. You could make any character be interesting and fantastic, and she could be a great protagonist. It's like, well, how about this? We all got excited about The Mandalorian for the first 2 seasons, and we all got excited about who and what exactly was Grogu and all of that. And all of this is supposed to be leading up to a movie, a theatrical release with Thrawn as the big baddie. And that didn't go well in Ahsoka setting him up, okay? That went about Kang the Conqueror bad. Maybe worse. Maybe somehow worse than Kang the Conqueror bad. Now, you're telling us that Dave Filoni, who's now in charge of the creative side of Star Wars, from a business standpoint, that his view is, when it comes to merchandising, when it comes to video games, when it comes to all of this stuff that needs to drive an ecosystem of interest for Star Wars, that he looks at all the plethora of characters out there that he could have be the main force fighting against Thrawn, and he goes, we don't want to use the Mandalorian, we don't want to use Grogu, we don't want to use Bo-Katan. We're going to go with this cartoon character, like you said, that I invented, a side character, not a minor character, but a side character from a cartoon. That's going to be the one who takes on Thrawn in substitution of Luke Skywalker, with the story that so many of my Star Wars fans and aficionados know. And according to Mark Hamill, who, by the way, has been on a venomous spree of tweets over Christmas. So, Mark, fix yourself. But he's not going to be reprising Luke, and so Luke's not going to be reprised. Luke's not going to be there. We're getting the Green Girl, and that is the business decision, because these are not just stories. These are not just narratives. Like, if you're at that level, if you're at the Dave Filoni level at Lucasfilm, these are business decisions with many millions and millions of dollars on the line, and this is the best that he has. I don't see how you could drive this any further into boredom if you tried.
I'm gonna make a a scary comparison here. Okay, just stay with me because
Worse
I'm
than
the
the cowboy
master.
hat. I'm with you.
I'm the master of terrible comparisons. This is, and dumb it down for a little bit. Don't read into it too much. This is what I would consider comparable in some way to having a religion, right? Star Wars was, to some people, it really is a religion. You know what I mean? It's comparable to a religion.
Well,
People have read.
it's a deeply well. It's okay. One, it's based on religious concepts. Two, it's an archetypal story that attempts to tell something that's deeply impactful to people. And three, it drives into uh, very deeply rooted mythology. So
Right,
I'm on board with you.
right. So we're tracking so far. Now take that and flip it and say the Pope has decided to start selling ice cream cones out of the Vatican.
Hmm. Are they
Uh,
chocolate sprinkled?
but but why? That's my question. That's my question. This is what I've been dealing with when it comes to Rings of Power. My brother is a fanatical Lord of the Rings fan, and you hear these quotes from folks who are saying, "We want to tell the story that Tolkien would never tell." Well, we're fans of Tolkien. So why would we want to embrace you? You're doing the antithesis of what Tolkien wanted to do. So why would we support it? It literally it makes about as much sense as the Pope selling ice cream cones.
Let's try it another way, X-Wing. I have been on a tear, and it's become sort of a meme that I've been making Michael Jordan uh, uh, metaphors lately. So let's try it with this one. Tell me if I'm on the right track with what you're saying. It's like having watched Michael Jordan play basketball, and suddenly Michael Jordan comes to you and says, "You know, for the next little while, we're going to start playing with beach balls instead, and I'm going to, pay me a nickel, and I'll throw it over top of my head." And you're like, "No, I really, I
No, I kind of like
change it up though,
basketball.
X-Wing. What if Michael Jordan is drug off the court because they no longer want him to do it anymore, and they send out a bunch of middle schoolers with beach balls and expect you to take that and pretend it's the same level of quality?"
And then when you say I don't like that, they say it's because you're not okay with change, you're an ist, you're a phobe, you're horrible, yada yada yada. No, it just doesn't work that way.
It's a
It just
category
doesn't work
change,
that way.
X-Wing. It's a category change. So we've went from something that was deeply meaningful and it was rare, right? So you couldn't put out a
It
ton of
was.
content because to do something special
It
takes a
had to be
special level of
special.
concentration and
Yeah.
preparation.
Yep.
And what we've gone from is that, but within the same franchise, we've switched that now to something that is more akin to fast food. So we've went from the local top of the line steakhouse where you get a once in a decade experience. You can only afford it. It's a 3-star Michelin experience, and we've gone to McDonald's, but it's still Star Wars. It still has the Star Wars name slapped on it. And no offense to McDonald's, I know Star Wars is worse than what you produce each day. We're just using you for the moment.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a very sacred thing to a lot of people. This stuff, it was formative in our childhood. A lot of us took a lot of our personal experiences and kind of backed them up from the stuff that we saw in these stories, because like you said, not only is it deeply personal, it's rooted in mythology. These are the stories of humanity. And just really to see it be as bastardized as it has. It's already jaded a lot of people that it was corporatized, but then to remove the soul from it entirely, I think that really hurts. And then to reach to their cousins, their other family members, kind of the deeper parts of the fandom. I've said this with Rings of Power going to this, the second age. That's a tough cookie to crack. Going into the expanded universe in Star Wars, that's a tough cookie to crack. And they're not treating it with respect. They're not treating it with reverence. And it has to be treated with reverence.
Right. You're talking about with Luke Skywalker and the story that was in the original trilogy. It's not a parallel to the story of the Passion of Christ. It's not on that same level. Luke is not dying for the entire galaxy or for all of conscious creatures, but he is willing to die in an ultimate sacrifice to redeem his own father, and he will not
Yeah.
strike his father, which is the ultimate display of passivity. Folks, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But it's the ultimate display of that, and it's altruism, and that it's the ending of that that archetypal naivete coming into full understanding of the depravity of his father and what it will take to redeem the father, and saying, well, whether or not this works, it's the right thing, but it's also the hardest thing. I'm going to do that no matter what. And so to go from that kind
I
of
have
depth,
to ask you something.
Yes.
Ask you something. So I made a video a little while back about we've lost sight of what Star Wars is, because you're describing a lesson that you learned from Star Wars, right? You learned a lesson.
Yes, a deeply
humanity.
important lesson.
What did you learn? What have you learned from The Mandalorian? What have you learned from? Actually, you know what the best one is? What did you learn from Ahsoka? What was the lesson in Ahsoka?
It takes a very long time to lift a Star Cruiser off of a proctology rock.
Yeah.
It could
even be argued, I always like to say that you can either have a leg to stand on and there's a stump you can lean on. The stump you could lean on for Ahsoka is that anybody can be a Jedi.
I don't know. It's so muddled,
and that goes
it's so muddled that I can't even understand that lesson from it.
That's what I'm saying. The stump that they have to lean on goes directly against what George Lucas, so it's tough, bro. It's tough out there.
The Ahsoka is so poorly written that I can't even make heads or tails of what it's supposed to be telling us. Although I assume it's trying to subvert and invert the morals that, traditional morality. But at the same time, it's so terrible that I can't derive an ethic out of it. So what do you do with that? I don't know. I do know that Thrawn, at least he's such an imbecile that I feel like I'm not alone in trying to understand what's going on. He clearly doesn't understand anything that's going on. So that makes me feel better, because he's supposed to be a genius. They tell us that over and over and over, despite every preponderance to the opposite direction.
I'm tired of subversion. I think for once I would like to have my expectations met instead of subverted. And I think
exceed those expectations, please. That would be nice.
Yeah. Meet and or exceed. And I think as a business decision, meeting and or exceeding expectations of Star Wars fans might prove to be extremely profitable.
Yes, and X-Wing, I think what we're finding out, both from what we're hearing, although we cannot corroborate about the Rey movie, and what we're hearing directly from Filoni is, I would temper all of those expectations, and I would not expect that they even have the desire to push Star Wars into be anything bigger than middling obscurity, is what I would say they're aiming for at best. I don't see any way for them to manage to be something bold and powerful with the direction of either of these two things. Folks, I do want to make a clarification. Although I was making comparisons with Christology in terms of the iconography and the archetypal story of Luke, of course, I'm not trying to make a direct comparison there. Simply saying that there are some general themes there, which I think are powerful because there are some connective tissues there in terms of the story. And George Lucas was smart enough to look to some of the most profound things ever told within humanity and draw from those as inspiration. I also would say, X-Wing, that when it comes to Tolkien and the story there, Tolkien probably is the greatest storyteller, the greatest human storyteller we have ever seen. Agreed. And so for anyone who thinks that they can step into those shoes and do what he did and even do better and correct him, they have hubris like you could not believe. So they would be fun at the dinner table. Yes.
It's almost admirable to not be hired in Hollywood for 10 years and then think that you can step into the shoes of JR is just...
I can't imagine, X-Wing, why Hollywood is struggling in 2023 and why 2024 might
It's a mystery.
I can't imagine. But folks, what we can imagine is you clicking that like button. Share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and let us know, are you shocked as we are that there is no effort to push Star Wars to be big? I mean, we're just here saying, like, even if you pulled this off, the scale is so small that what are they thinking? This is Star Wars, for crying out loud. Where is the big, enthralling story that we're supposed to get? Instead, we have Admiral Yawn. X-Wing, you do a great job covering all of this. Tell the folks out there where they can find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there.
I am on X-Wing. The channel is the same as the name. Right now, pretty much we're just doing live streams, commiserating at this point, hanging
I'm
out,
so
having a
sorry.
good time. Yeah, trying to talk about what we can. But go ahead and catch me over there. I'll be doing a stream with a good friend, Philip, who's a Tolkien historian, talking about the upcoming season 2 of Rings of Power, which I can't believe was greenlit. But we're going to be talking about the Second Age a little bit, talking about what actually happened, the Silmarillion. We'll be talking about Sauron, talking about all of the things that should have never been done that are about to be done. So
And
join me over there for that.
Folks, make sure to go over there and subscribe to X-Wing, check out that content. And remember as well that when we're talking about entertainment, we're talking about these deeply impactful mythologies, even I would call these things that we're discussing right now. We're not just discussing cute little movies. We're not just discussing cute little stories. We're talking about things that impact our cultures, that impact our morality, things that are deeply embedded and that we learn at a young age. We're highly influenced by them, and we think they're worth preserving, protecting, revering, and lifting up as highly as they can be so that they may impact future generations as well. They are pieces of art. Let's keep them so and not relegate them to fast food manufacturing. All right, folks, that's the video for today. We've got tons more on the way as we wind down with 2023 and get ready for the year of destruction when it comes to the entertainment industry. We will continue to keep you ahead of the culture curve wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
No, hey Thrawn, what you doing? Thinking about Rome?
No, I wasn't. But thanks. Now I lost the game.
Dang it! Now I lost the game. Ah,
No.
no. Well, now you're a double loser.
Hey guys,
Game.
you know what would help you in your grief? Forgetting those things and filling your mind with articles from thatparkplace.com and using that website as a launching pad to get you lost in thought with all of the team from there.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, well, Flora, would you look down here?
I hate you.